We work to defend the First Amendment, but a key part of the First Amendment, the right to speak out, the right to assemble into groups, and the right to petition government. And without those rights, we can't improve our government.
It's absolutely essential that somebody come to the defense of grassroots America that might want to get involved in politics. And in my experience, the Center for Competitive Politics is the only group out there who does that.
Whether you have $1 million to spend on litigation or you have no money to spend on litigation, there is someone to go to help defend your right.
Many of our clients are small nonprofits that can't afford an attorney even for basic compliance advice with these complex campaign finance laws.
It's an extremely difficult task. We're dealing with laws that are extraordinarily complex. The Supreme Court's decisions in this area are routinely over 100 pages. And CCP really does an excellent job of taking those complex issues, breaking them down into language that ordinary people can understand, and then communicating that to the public.
I'd say the mainstream news media certainly is still biased in favor of speech restrictions, but in some cases at least they've had to now grudgingly recognize that there is a respectable competing point of view, and it's that which is so effectively articulated by the Center for Competitive Politics.
We were just trying to provide voters with information about the personhood measures that were on the ballot through a policy paper that we had written. And the state required us to register as an issue committee and to file detailed reports every 2 weeks documenting all of our income and all of our expenses.
This is a case about one sentence of advocacy in a 30,000-word paper.
It gets treated as exactly equivalent in the law as an ad that you see running on television. I could not afford to challenge the law. I just didn't have the resources to do that.
It's a perfect example of what's wrong with these laws. If you can regulate this, you can regulate essentially anything.
The trial was in early October, and so it was mid-October when we got the ruling.
We won the trial resoundingly, and the state nonetheless appealed. And we've argued that case, and we're waiting to hear what the 10th Circuit has to say.
It was just such a sense of relief that I didn't have to do it this time. And at least we had taken a big step forward in terms of improving Colorado law.
We worked with people to gather signatures on a spending cap measure in Oklahoma. The Attorney General came after 3 of us, arguing that some of the people who gathered signatures were not state residents, and attempted to put us in prison for 10 years. And I think the key thing that they were trying to accomplish was to block us from putting a measure on the ballot that they knew the people would support. And they were willing to block us by trying to, in short, destroy our lives.
There are so many laws and so many victims out there that having CCP willing to do this and being able to raise the funds needed to do it is really a vital service.
They might have gotten away with it if the Center for Competitive Politics wasn't there to challenge that underlying law about residency among petition circulators.
SpeechNow.org is, in my mind, the most important campaign finance case of the last decade, even more important than Citizens United, which gets a lot more press and is a very important case, and important because it went to the Supreme Court.
The Speech Now case created the Super PAC. We wanted to pool our money and speak to other Americans and ask them to vote for certain people for office.
But the FEC took the position that if, say, George Soros wanted to spend $1 million and Peter Lewis wanted to spend $1 million, or if Charles Koch wanted to spend $1 million and David Koch wanted to spend $1 million, they could each do that. But if the 2 of them got together, then they were limited. Each could only contribute $5,000 to the effort. We said, that's absurd. That makes no sense whatsoever as a matter of First Amendment principles, nor does it make any sense of how people want to associate.
I wanted to actually do that very case myself for 20 years. I thought it was a really important point, a very important constitutional principle, that individuals who wanted to do independent expenditures could do it without limitation. And it's a case that intellectually, even as a Democrat, I wanted to do. So I was really jealous, but I was very grateful and excited to be part of the process to make that history.
But Speech Now never got to the Supreme Court. Rather, after we won on a 9-0 decision in the DC Court of Appeals, the FEC essentially acquiesced and just said, we're not even going to appeal this.
Incumbents don't like super PACs because they want to control the message. They don't want other people telling voters about what they've been up to in Washington.
It's really hard for a group of people to just strike out and do something to challenge their government or raise questions, raise issues, organize around issues. It's very difficult for people to do that.
The essence of the First Amendment is to protect political speech, and all these people that bring up the campaign finance reform stuff are trying to affect political speech and limit it and control it.
It takes real courage and real commitment to liberty to stand in the breach at a time when almost everybody thinks campaign finance laws are somehow inherently good, when in fact they have such a perverse impact on liberty. And yet CCP does that every single day with total courage and total commitment.
CCP takes a case, they're able to turn it into a story. Let us show you how this impacts people in real life, and that's very useful.
Center for Competitive Politics is such an important institution because it's the only one out there that just focuses on this overwhelmingly important issue.
People in government don't like to be criticized, and if we lose the right to speak out about our government, we're going to lose the right to ever improve our government and ever prevent it from turning against us.